In March 1770, an incident over an officer's private debt to a wigmaker's apprentice led to a soldier striking the boy, and a crowd gathered quickly. Another officer with a half-dozen redcoats arrived, muskets at the ready. The officers were pelted with rocks and snowballs, and one of the soldiers slipped, fell down, then stood, and fired. Others then fired as well. 5 civilians were killed. The pamphleteers went into action, decrying the Boston Massacre. Seeing the potential for a full-scale revolution, the British government wanted a trial, and after several Tories turned down the job, the patriot John Adams took up the defense of the soldiers. 6 were acquitted. 2 were found guilty of manslaughter, but they were given a series of sentence reductions that finally reduced the sentence to the branding of their thumbs. In North Carolina, the Regulator movement led to violence in May 1771. The Regulators were mostly Scotch-Irish who resented arbitrary property seizures for non-payment of taxes by officials of the Crown as much in America as they had in Northern Ireland. Royal Governor William Tryon dispatched a force of 1,000 men to march into Orange County, where they found a Regulator army double their size. At the Battle of Alamance, Governor Tryon himself started the hostilities by shooting one of the Regulators who was negotiating for peace. After a 2-hour battle, they ran out of ammunition and melted away. Tryon hanged 7 prisoners without a trial and became the archetypal bloodthirsty British oppressor. Later, he was appointed governor of New York and made a major general during the war. Tryon plotted to kidnap George Washington in 1776, carried on brutal raiding against women and children until 1780, and died peacefully in his bed in 1788. Fun fact: many North Carolinians consider the Battle of Alamance, rather than Lexington and Concord, to be the opening shot of the American Revolution, as the Regulator Rebellion was triggered by British taxation policy. In May of 1773, British Prime Minister Lord Grenville persuaded Parliament to pass the Tea Act. It eliminated the taxes paid by the British East India Company on tea transshipped through England and allowed the company to ship tea directly to America. The law was primarily intended to help bail out the struggling company, but undergirding the act was Parliament's putative right to tax the colonists, who had no representation. If the colonists acceded to the Tea Act, they would be accepting the principle that Parliament could impose any taxes on them at any time without any say on their part. Tea constituted a critical part of Englishmen's diets, especially in America, where the surface water was mostly unfit to drink. People were consigned to drink ale, rum, or tea. Indeed, in America, tea was not replaced by coffee until the 1850s. Thus, the British government was meddling with everyone's way of life. Accepting only Bible sales or printing, Parliament could not have picked a more unifying item to regulate. American resistance was as swift and almost as widespread as with the Stamp Act. In New York and Philadelphia, tea was forced to be shipped back to England, and in Charleston it was unloaded but left to rot on the docks. But in Boston, when no one would unload the tea, the royal governor refused to allow the ships to leave port with the tea still on board. What ensued was the famous Boston Tea Party in December 1773, organized by the resistance group the Sons of Liberty, who dressed like Mohawk Indians, boarded 3 East India ships, and tossed some 342 chests of tea into the water. This was all prearranged. The captain of the Dartmouth allowed the Mohawks to board, opened the chests, one lock was broken and the captain was reimbursed, and dumped the tea.